Hey, how you doing? This is Nathan Hawken here, and in this video, I'm going to talk about ego. I'm going to talk about how your ego right now could be holding you back from your own greatness, from you achieving really good things, from you getting from where you are now to a place where you really have been desiring. Because ego is one of those really interesting things where it has the power to either make you, to help you, to assist you, or it has the power to totally destroy you. And I don't use that term destroy lightly because that's what we're talking about. If you're not doing the things that you ultimately want to be doing and you realize that you're putting up barriers, you're putting up blockages, you're closing yourself off to opportunity or even help and advice, which could get you into a much better place, then that really is destroying a lot of what's going on with you. And that's what ego is all about. Now, you've heard of ego before, I'm sure. Like, I've heard of it, and I thought I knew what it was about. Like, I've studied it a little bit. I actually had to look it up on Google as well, just to get the definition for it, only because I wanted to get a deeper understanding of it. But I'm sure you've come across people who you would consider as egotistical, people who always think they've got the right answer, or they want to make sure that they do everything their way. It's like their way or the highway. And we've all met people like that. I've met people like that all the time. And so when I looked up on Google, like the definition for ego, it came up with a person's sense of self-esteem or self-importance. Now, the self-esteem bit I'm going to touch on a little bit. Might get a little bit deep into that later on. But it's a self-importance part which I really want to get into. Now, I'm Australian, if you guys didn't know already. So I'm from Australia. And in Australia, we've got this incredibly funny TV show called Cath and Kim. Now, you've probably heard of it because they are an international success now. Really, really funny. And it's about these two ladies. One of them's Cath and one's called Kim, and Kim is the daughter of Cath. Now, Kim is a full-grown woman. And so she's not a very nice person. Like, she doesn't speak very well to like her friends, her family, puts people down, but she's always going on about how awesome she is, how great she is, how hot and beautiful she is. Now, there's something that her mum says to her all the time. Anytime she says something like, geez, I'm awesome, or I could do that, I'm amazing, or something along those lines, Cath always says to her, well, you've got tickets, which I think is hilarious because that's an Australian term. Well, I think it's from Australia anyway. And it means, well, you've got tickets to your own show. Like, if you had your own show, you would buy tickets to go see yourself. That's how full of yourself you are. That's how much you love yourself, but not in the self-love type of way. And so that's what ego is all about. When we talk about ego, we're talking about how you feel about yourself internally and whether or not it's healthy for you or it's unhealthy for you. Because ego can be healthy for you if it's used consciously in a productive way, in a good way. But for the majority of the time, ego is something that is done unconsciously. It comes up and it can be quite unhealthy to you as the individual. I was recently speaking to a friend of mine who's a coach, and we were talking about coaching clients, the results that clients get, how you measure success, and a few things like that. And one of the topics which came up was ego. And I started to talk about like the coach's ego, which I will touch on in a little bit. And when we started talking about ego, I wanted to put this video together because I thought it would be really helpful for people. And I asked her, I said, well, what would be something that you'd want to know about ego if I did this video? And she said, I think it would be interesting to hear how arrogance and insecurities protect us and why we're attached to it. Now, something I've noticed inside my coaching practice, my coaching business, and the people that I work with, like my clients, and people that I don't work with as well, like people in society in general, like humanity really, is that all negative behavior comes from a place of insecurity, comes from a place of ill feeling towards self or low self-worth. Now, as part of my NLP training, one of the things that is a presupposition of NLP is that people are not their behaviors. The behavior is a result about how someone feels inside. So when you see someone behaving in a particular way or doing things which you wouldn't so much agree with, it's not the person. Like, that is not the person. That's just the behavior of the person. Now, we all know the example of a bully, like a bully on the playground. Bullies are bullies because they don't feel good about themselves. Bullies feel the need to strip down other people, to hurt other people, whether it be physically or mentally, because they don't feel good about themselves. Now, I could go on quite a lot in regards to how there's so many people out there who feel the need to pull people down, but I'm sure you've met people like that already. Maybe you've done it yourself at times, where your automatic response was to, when someone shares something good about themselves or a success or a win, you automatically go to a negative place. You automatically go to a place that's like, well, of course it happened for them, or you say something negative about them because you're not feeling good about yourself, because maybe you're not doing what you want to be doing. Like, we've all been there before. I've been there before as well, and I'm going to share with you in a little bit an example about that inside myself. Now, one thing that I have learned and tried to understand is this, is that an ego is there because it has a purpose. The purpose of an ego is to protect someone's personality, to protect your personality from changing its structure. And we hang on to it because any type of change can be uncomfortable. Any type of change can be so uncomfortable that we don't want it to happen. And when it looks like it may happen, or we might be forced to make it happen, whatever it is that we're looking to do, ego can really come in to prevent us from doing it, because it's trying to protect us from making that change, from changing that structure in personality, which is usually a result of fear. So fear gets in the way because on the other side of the fear is the change, is the restructure, is the new you, if you will, the new thinking that you now have. And so on the other side of that fear is that change. But if you're too afraid to make that change, if you've got a fear of success, fear of failure, fear of judgment, whatever it may be, then ego can come into it as a response to protect you, to protect your personality. And when that ego comes up, then there is no room for growth and there is no room for change. It's just, okay, I'm right, I've got the right opinions, I've got the right way of doing things, it's me, and I'm only going to do it my way. And then you close yourself off to any type of opportunity, any type of growth, any type of change. Now, that is a big difference between confidence and arrogance. So confidence and ego. Because you may be thinking, well, I know confident people who are always out, they always think they can do it better, or they're always happy to go out and at least try, or something along those lines. And then there's ego. There's people who are egotistical, who always think that they are right. Now, the big difference there is confidence is very positive. Confidence is something that will get you moving. Confidence is something that will get you to find a solution to a problem. Whereas an ego is something which isn't necessarily a positive thing. It can be quite negative because there is only that particular way in that person's mind or in your mind. And when you only have that way of thinking, then you're really limiting yourself. So huge difference between confidence and ego. Now, what I'd like to do is give you a little bit of an example about two areas in my life where I know that I've gotten in my own way because of my own ego. The first, and I think a lot of guys and ladies out there will relate to this, is, so my wife tells me a lot that I don't listen. Now, that's true. A lot of the time I don't listen. And when I've done my own introspective work and started to understand why that is, I realized because it's my ego. Now, my wife is very intelligent. She's very smart. She has a lot of answers and she's very helpful in so many ways. She's very emotionally intelligent, very bright, like in intellect. She has a lot of good ideas, a lot of help, but I close off my mind to those ideas because sometimes I think I'm right or I've got the right answer, and automatically at an unconscious level, I shut off anything else which tries to come in. So even though she might have the best idea in the world or something that's really going to help me in my life, in my business, in my own thinking, or us as a family unit, I can close off my mind unconsciously because I think I'm right. Now, I know that for me, that comes from somewhere in my past, in my childhood, which shuts that down straight away and brings on that ego. Now, I'm not an egotistical person. I'm confident, yes. I wasn't always, but I am now. but I'm certainly not egotistical. But in that type of situation, sometimes that ego comes up and I've got to watch myself. I really have to watch myself because first of all, it's detrimental to my own relationship with my wife and my family, but it's detrimental to the relationship I have with myself because I'm closing off. I realize I'm closing off. I'm shutting that down. Another example is in my business. So as a coach, and a lot of coaches who are watching this may understand this, is that we have tools, we have techniques which are really powerful and have the potential to literally change someone's life. Change the way they think so the person can get better results in their life. Can completely see the world in a brand new way that is full of possibility and full of opportunity. Now the problem there is, as a coach, being equipped with this, it's like he says in Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. Now, it may seem like we've got the magic, right? It may seem like we're the ones who are making the change, but it's not, right? And we have to be aware of that because it's not about what I do as a coach. It's not about what a therapist does. It's about what the client is willing to do within inside themselves. It's about what the client is willing to do or where they're willing to go within inside their unconscious, within inside their own consciousness, to find the answers that they need, to get new results, to let go of old thinking and old belief patterns and things like that. So it's not that I'm here doing the thing on the person because it's a do with process. It's the client. And so I've got to keep my own ego in check and I've got to remember that it isn't me, it's the client. Because if it was all about me, then there'd be a problem. The quality of my work would drop, the quality of how I feel about myself would drop, because I would be limiting myself to what I could possibly do because I'm closing myself off again in my business this time. And it can really make things a very uncomfortable place for me because if I'm closing myself to opportunity, then I'm also closing off the potential that my client has because I'm making it about me as well. And so I've noticed that happen from time to time within inside myself, within inside my business. And it's something that I've had to think about consciously. And I've noticed it happen in other coaches as well. And so ego is this thing that can come up and it can really close you off. So to help you with that, what I've put together is just 3 very simple things to help you keep your ego in check. Now, this may seem like it's been quite a serious video. Look, we've all got things we need to work on within inside ourselves. And so I want to have a little bit of fun with this, which is why the second one's going to be quite funny for you, or hopefully anyway. But the first thing to do is just check where your ego is currently at. Now, it's very simple. You just ask yourself a couple of little things like, do I think I'm always right? Anytime someone gives me advice, a suggestion, something that may potentially help me, do I instantly dismiss it and throw it away and don't take any notice? Or do I actually take it on board, reflect on it, think about it, acknowledge it, acknowledge the helpful thing that it may be? Do I feel bad within inside myself? Is there an insecurity within inside myself that makes me think that I'm always right or makes me think that my way is the only way to possibly do something? Because one thing to think about there is that if that is the case, then it can be quite scary to admit that you don't have all the answers and that maybe there is a better way. Admit to yourself and admit to other people. So the first thing you have to do is actually recognize where your ego is currently at. Now, the second thing to do is what I like to call ratchet up the humble meter and get ready to be humble. So imagine in your head there's like a dial, like with an arrow on it, and here is fully humble, here is egotistical. What you got to do is take that dial and move it all the way to fully humble. What you're doing there is just making a conscious choice to be humble within inside yourself, to keep the ego down, to realize that you have a choice to be more humble. You have a choice to use the ego in a productive and positive way, rather than just letting it come up unconsciously to dictate what you do and how you operate on a day-to-day basis. And if you keep that arrow all the way up to humble, then imagine the possibilities for you that you could actually create in your life because you're opening yourself up to more. And so the number 3 is to make advanced decisions. Advanced decisions are exactly that. You're making a decision now about what you're going to do later on in a particular situation or circumstance. And so Think of something which could happen in the future, which could potentially bring out a negative ego within inside yourself, which would put you in a place where you may not listen to other people. You may not take on what they're saying or what they're doing. And then ask yourself, what can I do instead? What would be a better way for me to show up in that moment? What would be a better thing for me to do in that moment that will serve me, that will help me? And then decide to do it. That's what making an advanced decision is. And in the context of an ego, put yourself in the position where you may limit yourself in that particular way and what you're going to do instead. So that's 3 things which will help you keep your ego in check. Now, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please feel free to leave a comment below or reach out to me if you've got any questions or if you need any further help. Thank you so much for watching, and I will chat to you soon.